I'm leaving you. Moving to Miami with my 20-year-old girlfriend. Already emptied our joint account. Haha. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't waver as I helped Mrs. Peterson choose a scarf. The only sign my husband of 12 years had just detonated our marriage via text was a faint tightening around my eyes. When she left, purchase wrapped in our signature silver paper, I typed my reply. Good luck. I'm Claire, 38, and I'd just received the most callous goodbye in history. While Mark was probably patting himself on the back, picturing me in tears, I was calmly locking up the boutique for the day. The signs had been there for months. Late nights that didn't match his pay deposits, sudden password changes, a newfound gym obsession, expensive clothes to recapture his youth. 3 months ago, I'd found a dinner receipt for 2 on a night he claimed to be working late. That same week, I opened a private bank account. When he suggested we simplify things by combining our savings, I agreed, after moving my personal funds out. The joint account he'd just emptied held only 2 months' worth of deposits, enough to keep him from getting suspicious. The rest was safe, along with meticulous records of every shady transaction he'd made over the past year. Another text buzzed in. Don't bother begging. Melissa and I leave tomorrow. I'll send for my things later. Melissa. The new receptionist. I'd met her at the Christmas party, watched her laugh too loudly at Mark's jokes and rest her hand on his arm when she thought no one noticed. She was young enough to be his daughter. I didn't respond. Instead, I called the lawyer I'd consulted 2 months ago after finding hotel charges on our statement. It's time, I told her. He just made his move. The papers are ready, she said. Want him served in Miami? No rush. Let him think he's won first. Another ping. You're not getting any younger. At least you have your little shop to keep you busy. My little shop. The boutique I built from scratch. The one that earned more than his middle management salary. The one I'd kept financially separate. I smiled, thinking of the certified letters that would greet him in Miami. That night, in my house, the one I'd inherited from my grandmother and never put his name on, I poured a glass of good wine and gathered the paperwork my lawyer would need. Mark's texts kept coming. Melissa understands me like you never could. Maybe you'll find someone your own age. Already told my family, we grew apart. Nobody's fault. I screenshotted every one, adding them to my evidence folder. Then came the gift. By the way, I used the joint card for our flights and hotel. Consider it my parting gift. LOL. Perfect. I called the credit card company to report fraudulent charges. By the time Mark and Melissa reached the airport the next day, their first-class tickets would be cancelled, their hotel reservation gone. The next morning, more angry texts. What did you do to our card? The airline won't honor our tickets. The hotel cancelled. I silenced my phone and went to work. Friday was always busy, and I had new designer handbags to unpack. By noon, his mother called. Mark told us how controlling you've been. He says you're being vindictive now, causing problems with his travel plans. Did he mention emptying our joint account and using our card for his girlfriend's trip? Silence. By late afternoon, word spread, Mark and Melissa were holed up in a budget motel near the airport, his credit cards maxed out for months. My lawyer called. Emergency hearing set for Monday. Given his admissions, we're in a strong position to freeze remaining assets. His girlfriend's social media is helpful. Mark texted again. Half that business is mine. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Every word was another nail in his coffin. Mark thought he'd scripted the perfect escape. He never realized I'd been quietly writing the ending myself. Mark learned the hard way about separate assets and business ownership. Sometimes the best revenge is simply being prepared. The emergency hearing on Monday was everything I could have hoped for. Mark arrived in his new wardrobe, designer jeans 2 sizes too small and a blazer screaming midlife crisis. Melissa lingered outside, her youth dulled by the unforgiving courthouse lighting. My lawyer laid out our case piece by piece. His gleeful text admitting to emptying the joint account. His credit card fraud for a Miami trip with Melissa. A year's worth of receipts for hidden expenses. Each detail was documented months before this day, back when I was quietly preparing for his downfall. Mark's attorney tried damage control. My client admits to some rash decisions, but Mrs. Harrison's actions were vindictive and calculating. Calculating? My lawyer replied. You mean prudent. She protected her separate assets and maintained flawless records. That's not vindictive, it's smart business. The judge studied my documentation. The deed to my house in my name only. My boutique's incorporation papers showing sole ownership. The clean separation of business and personal accounts. Then he turned to Mark. Mr. Harrison, do you deny deliberately emptying the joint account and using shared credit cards for this trip? Mark squirmed. I was just making a clean break. By committing financial fraud, the judge shot back. Mark's lawyer made one last desperate attempt. The business grew during their marriage, so my client is entitled. It was established before the marriage, my lawyer cut in. And we have every penny accounted for. I watched Mark's expression shift from smug to pale. He had mocked my bookkeeping for years, calling it obsessive. Today, it saved me. The court finds sufficient evidence of financial misconduct, the judge declared. All shared assets are frozen. Mr. Harrison is ordered to return the removed funds within 24 hours. Mark blurted, but the money's gone. Then I suggest you find a way to replace it, the judge said flatly. Outside, Melissa was asking about their Miami trip. His reply was drowned out by the click of my heels on the marble floor as I walked back to the business he never understood. The weeks that followed were a slow collapse for Mark. He claimed he'd helped start my boutique. He insisted he was my business partner. Every claim fell apart under my meticulous records. Melissa's social media told its own story, photos of them in her cramped studio apartment, captions about reassessing life choices. The glamour had worn off. Soon, she posted about toxic relationships and removed her relationship status entirely. Mark's family began to call, their tone a far cry from the accusations they'd thrown my way. Weeks earlier. We didn't know, his sister said quietly. He bragged about taking your money. I don't recognize him anymore. Too late. I let their calls go to voicemail. Ironically, the boutique thrived. Women came in after hearing my story, buying more than they planned. My ex tried the same thing, one customer confided, tucking a designer handbag under her arm. They never expect us to be smarter than them. Mark's texts kept coming, swinging between anger and manipulation. You've ruined everything. You'll regret this. The business would be nothing without me. I forwarded every word to my lawyer without reply. The final divorce hearing bore no resemblance to the victory Mark had imagined. Melissa was absent, moved on to a man her own age. Mark had ditched the young wardrobe, likely returned to repay part of the money he'd stolen. His lawyer looked beaten. One last week argument. Despite the documentation, my client contributed moral support to the business. Moral support, my lawyer scoffed. Like calling it a little shop and a hobby? The judge didn't need convincing. The final settlement gave me everything that was mine. My house. My business. My separate assets. Mark left with his personal items and an underwater car loan. You've destroyed me, he hissed outside. I'll have to move back with my parents. No, Mark, I said. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure you couldn't destroy me too. His mother was waiting to drive him home, in this case, being his childhood bedroom. The man who'd mocked my age was now 45, broke, and living with his mom, while I ran the thriving business he once belittled. You planned this all along, he accused. No, I smiled. I just paid attention, I told him, and unlike you, I understood the value of keeping good records. His mother stepped between us. That's enough, Mark. You've embarrassed yourself enough already. As they walked away, I heard her start in on him. Honestly, what were you thinking? A 20-year-old? Emptying bank accounts? Those horrible texts? I watched them disappear into the parking lot, feeling nothing but relief. Mark thought he'd written the end of our story with that cruel text. Instead, he'd triggered the beginning of my plan. My phone buzzed, not from Mark this time, but with notifications of new orders from my boutique's website. Life was moving forward, just not in the direction he imagined. 6 months later, my boutique had expanded to a second location. The little shop he dismissed was thriving, with 3 new employees and a booming online store attracting national orders. Meanwhile, Mark's life was unraveling. Dating apps led nowhere, women his age weren't interested in a 45-year-old living with his parents, and younger women had heard about his past through office gossip. Melissa had warned her friends about him, sharing screenshots of his desperate texts after she left. His career stalled. HR reprimanded him for his relationship with a subordinate and passed him over for promotion. His complaint of age discrimination was simply added to his file. One afternoon, his sister Amanda surprised me by walking into my store. I know we didn't support you at first, she admitted. He played the victim so well. But after seeing how he acted afterward, I'm ashamed we believed him. My lawyer kept me updated on his failed attempts to challenge the divorce settlement. Each petition was denied. His haha text about emptying the account became Exhibit A. The judge actually asked if that made theft less illegal, my lawyer laughed. The boutique's success began attracting media attention, not as a story of betrayal, but as one of smart business and resilience. Young entrepreneurs came for advice. My answer was always the same. The best protection is preparation. And always trust your instincts. Mark's mother still called occasionally, usually after his latest self-inflicted disaster, online gambling losses, pyramid schemes, get-rich-quick failures. He's still blaming everyone else, she sighed. But their family drama wasn't my problem anymore. I was planning my 3rd boutique. 1 year later. At the grand opening of my 3rd location, Melissa appeared, looking younger than ever, or maybe I just felt stronger. I owe you an apology, she said. I believed everything he told me, until he tried the same tricks on me. I kept arranging sunglasses. Those weren't dreams, Melissa. They were escapes. There's a difference. She nodded. Exactly. Big plans, no way to fund them. I'm dating someone my own age now, we're building something real. After she left, my assistant whispered, was that the girlfriend? No, I said. Just another woman who learned the same lesson I did. 2 years later. I spoke at a women's business conference. The topic wasn't divorce, it was building and protecting a business. My ex-husband said marriage meant sharing everything, I told them. Right up until he tried to take half my business. Trust your instincts, protection isn't paranoia. The boutique chain had grown to 5 locations. The little shop Mark mocked now employed 30 people and had been featured in national magazines. Through mutual friends, I heard he'd finally moved out of his parents' house, into a small apartment over a garage. A lower-paying job. A dating profile claiming he was young at heart alongside a clearly outdated photo. Melissa had become a regular customer at my original location. She'd earned a business degree and started her own company. You inspired me, she said. You showed me how to build something lasting. In my office, I kept Mark's cruel text framed, not as a wound, but as proof of how far I'd come. Below it hung a sign, success is the best revenge. 5 years later. At the anniversary celebration of my flagship store, Mark's mother approached me in a dress she'd bought from my boutique. "I saw Mark yesterday," she said. "He still talks about his glory days, but he doesn't understand he didn't lose everything in the divorce. He threw it away." I thought of that text, his casual cruelty, his assumption I'd crumbled. Instead, I'd built something stronger than before. Every new location was a reminder of what happens when a woman refuses to shrink for an insecure man. As my newest hire, who incidentally also named Melissa, asked about our new inventory system, I caught my reflection in the window. Not a woman getting older, but wiser. Stronger. More successful. Mark's text was meant to be an ending. Instead, it was the beginning, not just for me, but for every woman who's realized she's worth more than someone else's midlife crisis.